What's up, fellas?
Going on?
Good morning, y'all.
Hey,
Good morning, Mom. Good morning, Kels.
Good morning, everybody.
good morning. Good morning.
All right, so welcome to another team meeting where we distract you from your current story, dismantle your current belief systems, and inspire you to change your mind, which will then inspire you to change your life. So, a couple of quick reminders. Come on, man. So, we appreciate that you all follow, and we know you will continue to do so. But more importantly, please like, comment, and share. Our mission is to serve, so the more people that we can get in front of, the better. Our various programs, Game 7 Academy, tutoring and mentoring, and I'm gonna also add the word coaching, right? Because kids get mentored, adults get coached. So I gotta add the word coaching to that. Game 7 shop, get all your Game 7 gear, clothes, well, all clothes, t-shirts, hoodies, sweaters, jackets, everything else. Game7shop.com. And then also Goal Line. Join us every Saturday morning at 8 o'clock a.m. for a free workout. Goal Line is our program geared specifically to student athletes, but not just people in school who happen to play sports, because you should always educate yourself and you should always be in shape and you should always compete. Compete in life like you're playing a sport. What up, Ray? Good morning.
What's up, bro?
It's
Good
good.
morning
Good
to you.
morning.
Good morning. Good morning. All right. So the focus for today, as I stated over the past, I don't know, I guess it's been a good month and a half or so now. I've just been taking events from the week of my life and bringing it to the table on Sunday, and that's what we've been talking about. Hey, fellas, can y'all mute? There's one of y'all kicking the mic. So what's the focus for today? So the focus for today is if you don't win the ship, you're a loser. Going to the playoffs is not enough. Going to the second round is not enough. Going to the conference championship is not enough. Going to the ship is not enough. If you don't win, you get the same thing everybody else got. The only person, the only team, the only entity that gets something different than everybody else is the one that wins. All right? So, question for y'all. At the moment of these three photos, what do these three men have in common in regards to the ship that they just won in the photo? What do they have in common?
They all have moments of uh, immense emotion
Why?
because all the hard work that they put in, that they envision, has come to fruition. Like, their plan that they had has finally worked. So they're overcome with so much emotion, because one of the hardest things to do in basketball or in anything is when you're on a team is in basketball. It's what, 17 people now, 17 people from all over the world to come together for one common goal. People have different mindsets, people are brought up differently, and all of that. So that's a lot of really hard to get everybody on the same page to do one thing. So when you finally accomplish that, it's like a rush of just emotion that is just like no other.
Gotcha. That's half my answer. But I want to really test your knowledge of these legends. It's also something that you three have in common over the past 5 or so years.
Um,
Not being satisfied and always wanting to get the next one.
mhm. And they've overcome loss, I think, after. Oh,
Their fathers did not see them play.
Mm.
Jordan was so, I mean, clearly happy he won, but he had so much going on because his dad didn't get to see that one. Kobe 2001, his parents did not approve of Vanessa, and how she was 18 and he met her on a video set and she wasn't black. So they didn't come to the games in Philly. He won without them being there. We all know the situation with LeBron and his lack of a father. Right? So part of like what drives them or drove them at these times has nothing to do with the game. It has nothing to do with the game, right? There's often deeper reasons. But part two is exactly what KG said. These type of people do not like to win. They don't like to win. These type of people hate to lose. They hate to lose. There's a big difference. There's a tremendous difference between liking to win and hating to lose. But like KG said, however, this emotion is also due to the fact that they work so hard for so long to get to this point to where their vision that they always saw before, that they saw in their mind, was in sight. They saw that moment millions and millions and millions and millions of times before it actually came. Right? If there's not something that you want or you need in your mind that is not here yet, you will not get there. It's got to be something that you already live in that everybody else can't see. That's a huge reason of why they're all known for in their different ways of not working hard, but just having a lifestyle. Like their lifestyle is hard work. Their lifestyle is sacrifice. Their lifestyle is focus. So today, we're going to talk about how to turn vision into sight. So number one, we got to understand the difference between conscious and subconscious. So your brain has evolved to keep you safe in your comfort zone by creating neural patterns that become habits, like we talked about a couple of weeks ago. Almost all of what goes on in your brain registers in your subconscious. The far majority of that activity going on in your brain right now is happening below your awareness. Like you're just doing it. Most of what you do, you just do it because it's already in your subconscious. All right. So your conscious brain, which you're paying attention to on purpose, is like the top of the iceberg. That's only 3 to 5% of what happens. When you pay attention when you pay attention on purpose, that's your conscious brain. But most of what happens in your brain is already in there. It's ingrained. 97% of the system stays the same. Only 3 to 5 is what's being focused on at that very moment. All right? So conscious and subconscious. So just a little note. The conscious mind and the subconscious mind, they're not physical parts of your brain, right? They don't have lobes. They just share the same space, right? So your brain is the thing in your head. Your brain in action is your mind. Your brain is the thing in your head. Your brain in action is your mind, right? You can't change your brain, but by evolving your brain, you can change your mind. So when your habits, thinking, and actions are all lined up with your belief patterns and your emotions, so what you believe, how you feel, your habits, what you think, and what you do. This represents the ideal state of efficacy. The two priorities that we talked about earlier, right? Being lined up. When your brain is in coherence, it thinks everything is well and you're at peace. So when your habits, thinking, actions, your beliefs, and your emotions. Habits, thinking, actions, beliefs, and emotions. When that's all lined up, you have coherence. Habits, thinking, actions, beliefs, and emotions. Actually, let me go back. So let's go back to Kobe, LeBron, and Mike. Habits, thinking, actions, beliefs, and emotions. Everything that they do was committed to winning that ship. Like when we was doing Goal Line yesterday, one of the videos we were playing was Kobe in an interview with Patrick Bet David. He was talking about how during the summer, like LeBron does now, he kind of took it to the next level. Everybody goes on vacation together and they're friends and they work out together. Kobe didn't do that because they were competition. Michael Jordan did that, but he was working everybody. When he had everybody fly out to wherever they were filming Space Jam and they were all working out he wasn't just working out, he was studying y'all. And he was using y'all information against y'all when he played against y'all. Right? Kobe did the same thing. I just saw a last month on the JJ Redick podcast talk about how on Team USA he was doing one-on-one shooting clinics with Kobe, and Kobe was just taking everything that JJ did, and he later used it against him, right? And just the everyday lifestyle committed to what they did, right? They were not regular people and athletes, right? They were just machines driven to where they were going, right? Now, the one difference is that LeBron does a lot of this simultaneously, right? With his life as a man and his life as a player, right? That was clearly somewhere Kobe was going to later, and Michael Jordan clearly be on his own thing after he retired. He in his own little space. But everything that they do was lined up. They were coherent with their mission, right? Like for example, they didn't have the diet Monday through Friday and cheat on the weekend. They didn't have the diet and cheat because they were at a family activity. They didn't miss their workout because their son or their daughter had a game. They adjusted it, right? So coherence and dissonance. If you try to think or behave differently in ways that don't make the subconscious happy, coherence stops and you introduce dissonance. So like when there's something that comes up in your life where you're forced to change, many people falter because they cannot shift their habits, thoughts, beliefs, thinking, and everything that needs to line up to be coherent. So this can happen when you have to shift from the old, comfortable, habitual script that you've been relying on for your whole life to trying to change your eating habits, taking the risk of starting a business, admitting your mistakes, finally making an apology, or some other challenging task. The subconscious doesn't want you to start creating new patterns with healthier habits because it wants you to stick to the standard behaviors that you've already learned, right? For example, Michael Jordan had to learn to sacrifice. He didn't win for a couple of years. He didn't win until he got Scotty for real, and he had to learn to hit the brakes here, hit the gas there. LeBron had to deal with all of that public backlash when he made the decision, right? Like, why would you, in any other profession, you go play with the best team? Why would you not go play with the best team, right? Kobe, all of the things that he'd been through, how he had to change his game from like a super athlete to a super technician and go from Shaq to skinny, fragile Paul Gasol, right? They all had to shift. Next. So dissonance is expensive and it takes energy. When you've been unhealthy for your entire life, you have to pay a cost to become healthy, right? That's called a switch cost to making the change. And your brain doesn't like to use extra energy. It doesn't like to waste it. So it forces you, or it attempts to force you to stay comfortable and get back to coherence, right? That's why one of the hardest things for people to give up is food. Like it's public information that a lot of what we collectively put into our bodies is trash. It's public information that most of that is toxic waste sitting in your stomach. It's public information that most of that damages your neurological connections. It's public information that it's horrible for your heart. It's public information that it promotes unnecessary stress. But so many people will not stop, right? Because of the amount that they have to pay, right? They have to overcome those urges. They have to commit to that 3-4 month process to delete those urges from their body, right? Or why I'll speak about men because I'm a man. Why? Because I'm a man. Why a lot of men can't stay faithful, right? Because it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable, and they're not able to go through that process to do what they know that they need to do. Everybody knows what they need to do at work. They don't do it. Everybody knows what they need to do in their life. They don't do it. Everybody knows, you usually know what the decision you have to make, but if the price is too much, you won't pay it. But if you're willing to grow, you have to be willing to pay that cost. You have to be willing to pay that cost. That's why people plateau, because their habits, thinking, actions, thoughts, and beliefs are not in alignment. I want to get in super shape, right? If you're super out of shape, the first 30 pounds going to fall off. But then for another month, you might lose 1. And that's why you stop. Oh, I think I lost it all. I can't do no more. Or I worked so hard and it's not working yet. Like, bro, it took you 30 years to be this unhealthy. You think you're going to get it back in 90 days? Right? Their habits, thinking, and actions, thoughts, and beliefs, they don't stay in alignment because the process is taking too long. They're not willing to pay the cost. They need to get back to the meal. They need to get back comfortable. Right? They need to get back to whatever they cut. The cheese, the pork, whatever it is, the rice or whatever. They need to get back to it because it makes them feel comfortable. So what do they look like? Coherence. Coherence looks like this. Come on, computer. So peak performance. You're in flow. You're organized. You're comfortable. You're focused. You're much more calm than you are stressed. And when you are stressed, you have an intentional process to go through to get back to being calm. They're pretty even keel, emotionally grounded, right? When Jordan was focused, he was focused. Jordan wouldn't even talk to me. He wouldn't talk to nobody. Kobe didn't talk, right? I hate this part of him, but playoff LeBron doesn't talk, right? When he hit that level, it's a primary focus, right? An increased confidence and certainty, and an enhanced happiness and well-being, right? So more or less, you feel good. You're having a good day. You're having a good week. You did everything you're supposed to do. Your business obligations, your work obligations, your family obligations, your relationship obligations, your financial obligations. Everything is going pretty cool because you're staying on top of it. Even if sometimes you lose. Like, all right, boom, I know sometimes I'm going to lose, but I didn't get blown out. I stuck to my standards. I stuck to my routines. I stuck to my rituals. But what does dissonance look like? When your thoughts, beliefs, habits, and actions are not lined up. There's a lack of organization. Your moods swing left and right. You're not at peace. You're overwhelmed. You're confused. You don't have enough energy, right? You got a lot of sleep, but you got no rest. There's a whole bunch of doubt, worry, stress, fear, anxiety, excuses. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it Tuesday. I'll do it Wednesday. I'll do it Thursday. I'll do it next month. I'll do it next year. Excessive procrastination. Your mind wanders. You cannot think straight. You're not confident. Not confident, and you can't focus, right? So dissonance is like a virus on your computer. You got some malware. Coherence is when you get the firewall, you take it to Best Buy, Geek Squad, or whatever. They clean it out. It's working right again, right? Whether you got one window open or 10. All right. So the key is, and just I'm throwing you a oop here. I'm sure this will resonate with you. Is you have to identify what keeps you coherent. What's going to keep you grounded? Primarily with your thoughts and belief, because that's going to lead to your habits and actions, right? When you wake up in the morning, what's going to give your strong thought the power over your weak thought, right? When you're tired, what's going to give your strong thought the power over your weak thought? When you're stressed, what's going to make you accept that as a challenge and not a threat? There has to be something that keeps you in place. There has to be something that keeps you in the game. There has to be something that makes you say no to something for later instead of saying yes to something for now, repeatedly, over and over, regardless of who is going to rub the wrong way, including your relationships, right? That's one thing that Kobe also talked about. I wish I would have had that for last week. He says, I struggle with relationships because I was so coherent. I was so committed to my goal. But everybody that knew me, they understood. They understood. And also because he brought so much value to them by making the sacrifices that they were not willing to make. Right? It was something that he believed in, something that he thought. Right? Same thing with Kobe, same thing with LeBron. And that's also why I put B Dog and Ray Lewis on it. I know everybody may not be a sports athlete, but those are all extremely passionate, driven people who have a strong foundation that keeps them coherent. All right, so what's the solution? I get everything that's going on in the brain, and I get to think about the athletes. So, biggest thing that you can do is count the value and pay the cost. Right? Don't count the cost. Count the value and pay the cost. Last year, I don't know what much more you need, showed the power of being healthy. And it all depends on how you look at it. Like I look at it, if I'm not healthy, I'm not loving my son all the way that I can. Because there's going to be a day when I get sick. And if I did not do everything in my power to prepare my body to get through that and continue to be here for him, I left something on the table. Right? If I don't do everything in my power to get my life under control so I can be there for him, I left something on the table. If I don't prioritize learning what I learned in my own life to be important beyond math, science, reading, history, and all the other things that they teach us as education, that means I left something on the table. And the longer I'm here and the longer I'm coherent, the more value I can give to other people. Right? So I count the value and I pay the cost. You know, I had a long week, didn't really know what to do. Today, I've been up since 4. Well, really, I guess since 3 without the clock flip, because I had to do this. You know, I take notes throughout my week. It comes up. We don't get paid for this. When we do, we get paid pretty handsomely, and we still in the beginning, right? But this is for y'all, the 10 people that's watching. It's also for me, too, right? It's practice for later. It's practice for later. My mentor told me that the minimum for hour for what I do is $2,500. The minimum, right? The minimum. That's one great check for a teacher, right? So count the value, pay the cost, right? Do you want to look good or do you want to actually be healthy? Do you want to be free or do you want to have purpose? Do you want to have all of the nice things or do you want to have the nice life? Count the value, pay the cost. Remember the switch costs to go from dissonance to coherence. And then one big thing to help you when you're walking that tightrope between, and actually I'll say 1A or 1B depending on how you live your life. This may be the most important thing, is 1A or 1B. Identify your team. Because when you're leaning over to dissonance, it may take that call from your right-hand man or your right-hand woman or your mom or your dad to push you back over to coherence, right? Back to that Kobe picture, he was so torn, but he gained so much more appreciation for his wife for supporting him through that process. That's all he talked about after that championship, right? She kept pushing him to go to where he needed to go, even though he was going through turmoil in his relationship with his parents. All right, so what is a team? It's not just a collection of people. So a team is a small number of people with complementary skills who are committed to a common purpose. So let's stop right there. Shaq and Kobe. If Kobe stepped in front, you couldn't see him no more. Complementary skills, right? Kobe dominate the perimeter. Shaq dominate the paint. D-Wade and LeBron, very similar skills on the court, like very similar, even though LeBron was much more pass first and D-Wade was much more score first, but off the court. Like LeBron went to Miami for the leadership that D-Wade gave him, right? Complementary skills. Mike is going to get the buckets. Robin going to get the dirty work done. Rebounds, D'ing up. Scotty going to do a little bit of everything, but also take the burden off of Mike on the defensive end with a common purpose. Win the ship. Not the game, not the conference, not the division, not the playoffs. Win the ship. Set of performance goals, right? We want to be greats. We don't want to win 1. We want to win 2. We want to win 3. And an approach for what they hold themselves mutually accountable. Right? Now, that was a big thing why Shaq and Kobe didn't win 10 championships. right? They had a different purpose. They had a different level of accountability to themselves and to each other. It seemed like D Wade and LeBron was on the same page, and Mike Pippen and Rodman, who knows? You feel me? Mike, who knows what Michael Jordan really? I think Michael Jordan lost respect for Scottie Pippen when he didn't go in the game, right? But we will only have to know from them. But clearly, they did enough to make it work that many times. So build your team with people who are good at different things than you, because you want people that complete you, not people that compete with you, right? We got to put something out. We need some pictures or some videos, some media. I'm going to hit Pizzle, right? We want to work with a football team or a basketball team or something. I'm going to hit KG. We want to work with some school administrators or some kind of financial initiative. I'm going to hit Just. We want to go deep into the therapy, into the mental space. I'm going to hit Mason, right? Everybody has a different purpose. So we compete. We do compete versus each other in like a way. Like you want to play on the good team that drives you to perform well, right? But we all do different things to complete the same mission. So count the value, pay the cost, identify your team so that you can stay coherent and not dissonant, because everything matters if you want to perform at the highest level. If you don't want to perform at the highest level, you just let it go how it go. But the purpose of this is, like, for those of you who are working so hard and giving it all you got, and you may not have won the ship yet, you got to keep going, right? Like Kobe didn't win in like his first year. He had some hurdles he had to get over. And especially after Shaq left, he had to get over the Celtics. He had to get over the Spurs. Like if it wasn't for the Spurs, Kobe would have 10 ships, right? We know LeBron had to get over the Celtics. He had to get out of Cleveland before he could come back. Mike had to get over the Pistons and everybody else. They didn't just quit. Their work ethic did not change. If you listen to all of their stories, LeBron's been this way since 12. Kobe was already coming into the league that way at 17. Michael Jordan has been that way since he got cut sophomore year, freshman year, whatever it was. But you must continue to go. Never let your circumstances take you to dissonance. You must remain coherent. So I'm gonna be quiet and I'm gonna see what y'all thinking.
Yeah. I think that was a extremely a great point. Exactly. If if you're not first, you're last. It's dope, right? A lot of people, and I experienced this. Like I was coming from a small school, D1 school, where I had a lot of success, and then as I went to the league, I didn't continue to make my goals get bigger because I hit all of my goals um, quickly. Well, not quickly, but I hit all of my goals. So I didn't continue to push my goals higher than they were. And at the time, I didn't have like the tight group of people that I needed to have around me that would compliment me as a person, that would feed me the things that I need to be fed, right? And to the bottom part is a lot of people don't hate to lose, right? They're like, oh, we didn't win. Like, oh, dang, shucks, right? A lot of people just don't like to lose, but they don't hate to lose. Like, ever since I was a child, and Malcolm, you can attest to this, every time when we were kids, like, I would cry. People are like, yo, why you always crying? And I still remember this to Coach Mo. He was like, yo, why you always crying after every loss? And this is like 10-year-old Kendall. And I go, it's called passion. You should get you some. And I said this to a grown man, and I was 10 years old because we just lost a regular season baseball, like little league game, right? And it has to be like that in everything you do, because if you don't, you just accept you losing, right? And obviously losing is inevitable. Like you're gonna lose. Like no one's gonna win every single time in anything in life, right? So just because you lose though doesn't mean you have to be okay with that, right? And And that's what a lot of people have to learn and to develop that skill. And I say it's a skill because it's literally a skill. You have to learn and have to overcome and that moment of when you lose, going into the victim mentality mode versus losing and figuring out, okay, what didn't I do right? How can I adjust for the next time instead of I'm trash, nothing is ever going to go right for me. And I think a lot of people have that mentality because it's easier to do that rather than look yourself in the mirror and hold yourself accountable because a lot of people don't want to admit their faults. Like a lot of people don't want to admit when they didn't do something correctly or someone told or suggested them to do one way and they wanted to do another way and it didn't work, right? So the biggest thing is you have to learn that skill set of whenever you do lose, like how can I look in yourself in the mirror, adjust, and come back with vengeance. And I think especially nowadays is especially with millennials and who we are, like we were taught so much, well, you can do whatever you want, you could be whatever you want to be. So as kids, we were always told like all of this, like, all right, it's okay, you're gonna do whatever you want. And that kind of like programmed this entitlement in our head that just because we're going to just because we want to do something, it's going to go our way. And then when it doesn't, it's like all hell breaks loose. And that's why so many disconnects between different generations, because obviously each generation wants their kids to be different than them. Our parents came through the generation where they had to be hard and tough, right? Which in reality, that hurts them in some cases, right? With us, like we're okay with identifying our feelings and things like that. Now we just got to get a little tougher skin when things don't go our way, right? I think our generation does a great job of identifying when we have a problem, right? Now, once you identify the problem, what's the solution? And once you hate to lose, you'll be able to identify that solution and pretty quickly and not go into that victim mentality and act with coherence rather than dissonance.
Great points, KG. I think the first thing, if someone's, reviewing this video or watching live right now, I think it's really important to know that first you have to identify whatever your goal or your vision is, right? There's no winning or losing if you don't know where you're headed. And that to me would be my first piece of advice to anyone. You have to identify where it is that you're headed. And then you can begin to evaluate if you're sitting in a place of coherence or dissonance. And I think many people in our society just naturally sit in dissonance because number one, they haven't identified a goal for themselves. I believe that different roles that we all play in our lives, whether it be a husband, a wife, a son, a uncle, um whatever your role is at your job, like those roles, society has definitely already put a list of responsibilities and expectations on you, but that's very different from what you've decided you want to do or want to be in your life. And I think that our generation has done a really good job, the millennials and the one that comes after us, at creating goals or creating a vision for our own individual selves, um, which maybe sometimes make our actions or our approaches to things, sometimes a little bit um, different, or maybe sometimes um, hard to understand from other individuals or other people in other generations. Um, but I think as long as you stay tethered and you stay very, very close to that vision that you have for yourself, um, in those times of dissonance, when you are lacking confidence, when you're lacking, understanding, or you have doubt, uh, for me personally, I'm able to identify when I'm in that place of dissonance because I always check back into my vision. The goals that I've set for myself, they're always evolving. My goal is never to be the same individual that I was at this time last year or this time, even sometimes last month. Because this journey called life is a one-way trip, and we never know when this journey is going to end. And for the person that continues to put their foot on the gas, um, they're guaranteed to hit their destination. Maybe not in the time frame that they want to, right? Or the way that they saw it in their head, right? But for the person that refuses to continue, the person that refuses to give up towards the vision that they have for themselves, they'll get there. And for me, I really connected with the point about the switch cost, right? Because there's a cost for every single thing in your life. Um, many times in our society, I believe a lot of us are taught to take the safe route in life. Um, and I think the great thing about our generation is that we've been able to dissect some of the outcomes of those safe decisions. For people that have done that in past generations, they've made very, very safe decisions because stability wasn't one that they may have come up with, or just in your community wasn't a stability. So their first responsibility was to find stability. And if that is not something that you struggle with, or you understand that stability is something that comes with uh reaching your goals, or having just personal um satisfaction with yourself and where you are in life, you'll understand that the cost of staying comfortable is sacrificing your vision sometimes. You will only be able to reach the goals and create your vision, make your vision come to life when you've stepped out of the norm, right? And unfortunately, that comes with a lot of realities that sometimes people aren't willing to endure, right? But I will reference something that I've been that's been a mantra for me, that the race is not given to the strong or the swift, but the one that can endure. And the person that can continue to endure the switch between coherence and dissonance until they eventually find a common space where they stay in coherence, right? They're not sorry, I'm trying to find a proper word, but when you experience pushback in your life, or you experience a rocky road, it's important not to give up on that vision or alter it, or begin to feed into those thoughts of doubt, like, hey, maybe I don't deserve what I'm asking for. Maybe this is not what God has for me, right? But I look at coherence and distance, the difference between what voice you hear in your head between the God and devil, right? Between God and the devil, because when you're not coherent, you're not confident, you're not focused, you're not grounded. Um, those are opportunities for the devil to be able to come in and create those doubt, create that lack of organization, the lack of being able to see clearly. But if you noticed, for people that stay connected, they continue, whether it's their religion or their family or their vision, they continue to tap into that thing. It's really, really hard to get them off. You understand now, because they put everything that they experience in perspective to that goal, that vision, or that place in life that they see themselves. And for me, that is the way to really identify or to analyze the space that I am in life. And it is important to go through that journey with a team, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean a team of friends, right? Or your community, because everybody doesn't have that opportunity. But more regularly, people are in relationships, so you may be married, or you may have long time friendships, right? And those teammates that you always need to connect to during these times of dissonance, because they know you in a way that you may not know yourself. And if they are the right friends, if they are the right companion, if they are the right partner, they will remind you of individual you are when you're operating in coherence, right? You may at this time be overwhelmed. You may at this time, have fear and anxiety, but remember who you were before this. This is what you've shown me throughout the pattern of your life. And that's where they show their immense value in your life, right? That's why these people hold such a high regard to you, because they know you for who you are when sometimes you have that self-doubt. And that's why they do complete you. And I know I'm bouncing around from idea to idea, but I do want to just sum it up and share that if you haven't identified what your vision or your goal is for yourself, that has to be step one, right? And then that way this conversation will make much more sense, and you'll be able to analyze yourself to know what side of the table you are sitting on. Are you sitting in a place where you're coherent and you're giving your peak performance, right? And you're giving yourself an opportunity to experience happiness and fulfillment, right? Or is it just fluff, right? Is it something that you're, is it something that is just giving you a temporary high? Is it giving you a temporary, form of satisfaction, and you don't see the crash coming, right? But I think not that I know that it's important, and our generation has done a really good job at identifying those goals to be non-traditional ones, because we've seen the outcome for generations who have stuck with the traditional goals, visions. And maybe that was satisfactory to them during their lifetime, but what is available to us during this time is very, very different. And we have to be thankful as millennials, or as the generation that comes behind us, because what we have available to us in society is only available because of the sacrifices that those people have done that come before us. But it also puts an immense responsibility for us to go and actualize and grab those goals, visions, and create a new sense of what is capable for people to achieve. You understand? That's where evolution and that's where just the continued growth of man comes, right? If people during this time continue to be satisfied by working on factory lines, right, like they were back in the 60s or 50s, right? People wouldn't strive to be intelligent or to have information or to be able to push back against, information that we're just given, right? It's the ability to think for yourself, identify what is proper for yourself or what is satisfactory for yourself. So I just wanted to leave you with that, and definitely open to what KP and Malcolm have to offer.
That was good, Justin. That was real good. Even so, that I identified with a few points that you made. One of the points that you made was to identify a goal. And I think that's so important to anything, right? Like when you look at the football player who wants to make it to the NFL but broke his leg or something like that. Like he knows what the goal is, so he knows he has to work out. He knows he has to hit the coach up. He might not have scholarships, so he knows he got to do the walk on. He knows he got to wake up at 4 a.m. every morning and get to practice and do what he has to do. Same thing, you look at a lot of things in life when people have that goal or they see that end result, they know exactly, they don't necessarily know exactly how to get there, but they know they got to stay consistent to actually reach it and to maintain that. So I think that's very, very important, because you don't know where you're going to get at or where you're going to get to unless you're able to identify exactly what you want. And then another thing that kind of hit is to identify the team, right? One thing that I think a lot of people struggle with is people think that the individuals who they became friends with because of proximity is actually the people that, this is my team, right? And one thing somebody taught me this and I had to learn it. And they said, like, a lot of your childhood friends are only your best friends because of proximity, because you went to the same school, y'all did the same programs, everything was the same. So, this is your best friend. And I still have a lot of good best friends. A few of them, I think a couple people kind of dropped off as time went along, but I still have some very good best friends who I was close to back in the day. But I think a lot of times people think, all right, because I live in the hood, or I live in the burbs, or I live in a certain neighborhood, or I'm around a certain mindset of people, that I have to necessarily be friends with these individuals. You don't, You don't. Find the people that have the same passion that you have, and then find more people, and then before you know it, you're friends with those people. I just look at my life with photography. Like, I got you guys, which is great, But then I've made other friends when doing wedding photos, photography shoots, and things like that. And I've actually found myself, I built a relationship with them, right? And then here it is now, like we're sharing ideas. They're throwing, yo, this camera's on sale, this lens is on sale, like different ways to kind of increase and boost me up as a person. And I find ways to boost them up as a person as well. And that's just because we have a like mind towards something that we are really interested in. So I think I want to challenge people to definitely go out there and make new friends, right? It sounds crazy, but go out there, find something you like to do. If you like to paint outside in the forest, sitting by a river, find somebody on a meetup who likes to paint outside by a river and paint a forest, and do that, yo. And you'll be surprised how much it boosts you and boosts the things that you want to do and uplifts you as a person. So that's the challenge for everybody who's watching this right now.
Hey, I agree 95%, Pizzle. But I'll say not necessarily go find friends. Just get your game up. Get your game up. Because when you add value, you'll find a team. Like LeBron was so sweet, he could go anywhere he went. He ain't have no friends in Cleveland. That ain't work out. I'm gonna go ahead head over to Miami. Here's my resume. Here's what I do. I got some new friends. Here's my new resume. I'm gonna go to LA. I got some new friends. Everybody want to be his friend, right? Oh, it's hard to be friends with Kobe, right? Because he's so coherent. He's overly committed. But when his old friend left Shaq, he got some new friends later, back to back to back. All right, Mike got some friends, all because of the value that they added. And then like this week, like when Mace dropped that message in the chat to me this week, I know what we know Mace, 2 years, year and a half. There's people I know my whole life, I've known for a decades, I would not take that from. Because they don't understand, they don't know me all the way. Right? They haven't been in the trenches with me, with us, for any bit, not for years. But he adds tremendous value. Like because of his resume, that tells me like, yo, you don't know what he's talking about. That might be something that you would like to consider. Right? Think about how we all just got in that same chat on this same team. It was all different value added. Right? And I remember Just highlighted that a couple of months ago. He was like, but Mark, remember how you got the friends that you got because you've been working on adding value. So we've all came together through this by being valuable and complementing each other. So I agree. Like, find friends, but all right, let's take that a step further. So now you meet that person. What's next? Dang, she was pretty, but she artificial. Oh, he looks strong, but that's baby weight. Or y'all got all the nice cars and a nice house, but it's all debt. You're making a lot of bread, but it's plus minus is super small. That's the offense that scores 150 but gets up 149 on average. Right? So I agree. Go find friends. And especially, I don't know about y'all, but like in my life, like a lot of the black women that I know our age don't have no friends. Right? It's like they got college friends and when I went to college, but I don't know, that could just be me. And it could be men too. But y'all like the only really men I know, so I don't know men that way, but women, there's a lack of friends. So I would say find a way to add value. And then to go with the vision, your vision has to be broad, right? A series of pictures compile the vision, right? So this picture isn't coming to fruition. You might have to shift to this one. It's like a puzzle, putting pieces together. So I would oversize the emphasis on adding value because that's the only way to build a good team for real. You can't just have a bunch of people who are not adding value. And then have your vision have multiple pieces. So if one thing isn't going right, you don't give up. You can shift over here. So I just wanted to add that based off of what Just and Pizzle said.
I want to add one part, because dissonance is for sure to come in this life, right? Especially during different periods of your life when you're working towards your vision, right? And sometimes you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I know that, holistically, this is a hard time for many people in our country. And I just wanted to give this tidbit that as you find yourself having self-doubt or, you have fear or you're experiencing those feelings of being overwhelmed, it's important to take your situation that you're in and compare what your past experiences have been, right? Think about the toughest thing that you ever have had to go through before, ever. And if you've gotten a chance to wake up today, that means that you've gotten past it, right? For me, my faith tells me that God has brought me through that, right? And he hasn't left me, um at all in the past, man. Like I look back on the hardest thing that I've ever had to do in this life, and that's bury my father. And I compare every struggle that I've had after that day to that experience. Oh man, and that quickly gets me out of this place of dissonance, right? Because the only thing that I could ever do that's harder than that is God forbid, not God forbid, but the day that my mom, God calls her home, or if God chooses that, I'll be one of the people that, unfortunately, if it's in his plan that I have a child and I have to bury my child, right? Those are the only 2 days or the 2 experiences that I may not feel so confident when I compare that experience to. But it's really important to know that when you go through these struggles, or you go through these times of dissonance where you have lack of confidence or you're feeling overwhelmed, these times come to shape you. They come to test you. They come to mold you, because there's something greater that you're asking for. But you have to prove to God, to yourself, to your partner, to your environment, that you are worth, or you can handle the responsibilities that come with the next level that you are asking to be in. Right? Because you're asking to level up, right? You heard Biggie saying, everybody, maybe is reconnecting with Biggie because he has a documentary on Netflix right now, but more money, more problems. You understand? If you can't be a good shepherd over few, right? If you can't be responsible over few, how can you be trusted with many or with most, right? Sometimes, when you have this big lofty vision, I mean, it's God and the world's responsibility to test you. That's the responsibility. That's their responsibility, like every other parent, right? You just don't give your kid, because they have a driving permit, you just don't give them keys to the car and let them reign free. You sit in the car with them for weeks, months at a time before you give them that opportunity, right? Just because your kid is 12, 13, 14 years old doesn't mean you just leave them in the house for hours or you go on a weekend trip. No, you have to build up that level of trust in them. And that comes from giving them small tidbits of responsibility or struggle, right? And understand that we are all, regardless of your age, I don't care if you're 30, 60, or 70, right? We are all still and going to still be challenged and questioned, basically, by God in this life, if what you're asking for is what you really want. But understand that these hard times are not coming to break. They don't come to break you. They come to shape you. They come to allow you to get a deeper view or an honest view of where you are at that moment. And if you're not satisfied with the results, you know what work you need to do, right? And once again, the importance of a team, because sometimes when you're so much in the thick of your challenge, you cannot see clearly the changes that you need to make, right? Or the perspective you need to take. Okay. So I just wanted to offer that to you because, I know we're in a tough time right now, but I'm really nervous that for the ones that are feeling so overwhelmed or they're feeling like they're at a breaking point, that they may not understand that even tougher times are coming ahead. You understand? And I'm not speaking that into existence. I'm just saying that none of us on this call were too young when, in our society, we had the .com bubble in 2000. And then just 6 years later, there was a huge crash that it took a decade to recover from, right? The people were just getting out of the weeds that struggled in 2000 or 2001 with the .com bubble. And then here comes 2006, 2007, where just like, entire industries were wiped out. So I know that, we're looking to put 2020 in the past from not only what it's done to our families or it's done to our society or it's done to our economy, but just know that this may not be the last. That might have been the earthquake, but remember, there's always aftershock. You understand? And you have to build up enough resistance and resilience to be able to withstand, the troubles that are to come. Because, at least in my faith and what God has spoken to me is that, in this world, there will be trouble, right? He says that clearly in his word that, in this world, there will be trouble. Not that there may be trouble, right? But there will be trouble. But for us not to worry because he has overcome the world, right? And for me, my coherence comes with my connection and my commitment to God and that shift, right? When Malcolm was talking about, throwing me an alley-oop on during that conversation is because, I've personally, like most people, have gone through, feelings of being overwhelmed or a lack of confidence during this journey of our quarantine or, just a series of transitions that are going on in our society. And I've been able to regain this coherence by recommitting myself to God and doing the things that I failed to do during these times of perceived coherence, right? Because sometimes you can be in a space where you believe you are on level ground, and all it takes is for a couple chips in that ground to make it completely fall out, right? But I offer that to whoever is open to that conversation. If you're standing on shaky ground, I mean, I'm completely biased because God has shown up in my life tremendously, man. I've seen God wake a man up out of a coma before, just simply off of just extreme prayer, right? Where every single doctor, and I'm talking about a number of them, 6 and 7 of them, right? For very, very different specialties, have wrote my dad off, right? Or just what I've been able to experience. I remember if KP or KG kind of referenced it, right? I think it was KG. I'm saying the athlete that wanted to, make the team, but he broke his leg. So you understand they had to go a different journey. For what some people may not know about me is that I went to Virginia Tech 5'5", 150 pounds with a passion that could fill an auditorium, right? And, a part of my testimony is just that, I wasn't able to make the team during my first tryout, but I showed up to practice and watched them every single day for a season and a half. I worked out after class. I gave myself study hall, right? I took naps for the first time. I watched what I ate, right? And I grew spiritually. I reconnected myself to God and throughout all of those sacrifices and staying, locked into that vision and, overcoming dissonance with God, I was able to not only make the team, but, after getting hurt, make it a second time. Right. And not to say that the outcome is what I thought it would be, but I'm so thankful for that experience because it developed a level of trust in my own self and trust in God that I take on this journey of life because sports ends. Right. I mean, 1% of people make it to the NFL that play the sport, and the career only lasts on average 3 years. So who are you after 25? For all of these 1% of people that can say that they are NFL athlete or a professional athlete, I mean, that journey ends for most at 25 years old or earlier. If God has given us 75 years, who are you at for the remainder of 50 years of your life? So I share that with you because it's important to know that you are developing an individual more so than just achieving the goal or achieving your vision. Right. And I want to speak that to all of y'all too, my brothers on this call, man, because as we go through these periods of dissonance, it's important to just know that we are building ourselves as much as we are working towards a goal, right? Because trouble is sure to continue to come. And who you are and who you build yourself to be during these times or what's going to give you the opportunity to continue to step forward.
Yeah, that was great. That was great, Just. And to add to what you were saying about building, For example, look around wherever you are right now. Everything that's in your house was not just made off of one time, right? It had to go through failure, right? The iPhone that this is the 11th version of the iPhone. Each time every time a new one comes out, it's a bug. They got to update it, right? And upgrade it. And Malcolm says this all the time, like, that's how we are in our journeys, right? If I have an iPhone 5 and I'm trying to put an iPhone and I'm trying to upgrade my storage, like sometimes it's not compatible. You got to upgrade yourself, right? So if you keep operating on the same iOS over and over after you're learning these things, after you're failing and you're not upgrading your system, then you're simply just outdated, right? And I think a lot of people, it's important to know that, like, you need times of struggle. Like, you need it. Like, it's going to make you a better individual, right? Because when with struggle comes perspective, right? And that's also a beauty of, just like Just said of and Malk said, of having that team, right? Because when you're so deep in it, it's hard for you to actually see another perspective because you know what your target is, right? But when you're operating with dissonance and you're so deep, like, that's when you need someone else to tap you on the shoulders, like, yo, like, well, I know what you're trying to do, but what you're doing now, that's not really going to get it done. So and people are like, well, how do I find it? The beauty of 2020 and 2021 is virtual, right? Like, what we do on Saturday mornings with Goal Line, that's a whole community in itself now. Every time we come on, we have someone share a story about what's going on in their life. And a lot of people, I probably know every single person on the call. Actually, scratch that. I don't know every single person on that call in real life person situations, right? But that still does not change the fact that now I have created a new connection to someone that feels comfortable enough to share their experiences with me, right? So if you're someone who's struggling finding a team in your area, right? Understand that, like, yeah, it may not be in person, but it's ways that you can find someone that suits your needs online, right? And that's where we're coming right now in the world. We have to evolve. Everything might not be in person, right? But it still adds value. So just understand that, like, if you really want to find a new team and you really want to continue upgrading your identity, you have to be relentless in your approach to find people who add value, right? Because if you on a mission and someone else doesn't add value, that's ultimately just pulling you down. Like, that's just pulling you down because um they won't be able to give you what you need in that moment when you need that perspective, when you're going through dissonance, because they may not understand what dissonance is. They may be operating on that level themselves, right? So if you have multiple people on your team that are operating that way, it's no way that any of you will be able to level up, because you're all going through the same struggle and the same problem.
And
Shameless plug, right? If you are having a hard time finding a circle of friends or people to connect with that would would serve the purpose that you're looking for, that's the reason why we're here, right? You can always tap in and connect with us, right? We do that amongst each other, and the entire reason that Game 7 has been created is to essentially be a concierge service for personal development, right? At any stage that you are at, because all of us are honestly at different stages of our lives, but all of us provide value in different areas. So that is the reason why we are able to work together so well, right? KG says this, and sorry to cut you off, KP, I'm about to be done, but KG says this every weekend during our goal line. Do not harm yourself by comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10, right? It's just give yourself the space and the grace to continue to grow regardless of where you are on the journey, right? And that's how you'll know that you are amongst the right group of people, because they will not down you for being in a different space than they are. They give you the courage and the praise for just being on the journey.
Yeah, and then one thing I will say in regards to even like the team is like focus on where you're going rather than who's not coming. And don't necessarily worry about too much, right? Like everything is gonna work out for you. And then also to keep in mind that sometimes you gotta change your surroundings and change the way you think and change the way you do things to make things change. I think one of the best sayings that I've always heard, and I've always said it to myself, and I still say it to myself, is that nothing changes if nothing changes. So you gotta make sure that you're able to change things, and then things will change from there. So
Malcolm, you're on mute.
you on mute.
My fault. All these freaking buttons in front of me. I said I would like to overemphasize that the key to all of this is you have to lead yourself. Right? You have to lead yourself. Perfect timing, Mom. And one thing that always perplexes me, like my mom at her age is willing to do all the work. She's one of the very few people who does everything we suggest. There's people I talk to every day who still don't want no smoke with the 90-day commitment, right? Because he's still stuck on the working out. It's not just about working out. It's about working you out. You know, like what kind of person are you? Like you're not willing to give yourself 3 months to get stronger, to get smarter, to become more business savvy, not realizing that after that 3 months, the kind of person you'll start to turn into, you'll see who you are. If you stop at 91, you ain't built for it. You played your 16 games, you're done. You're not ready for the playoffs. You're not ready for the shit. You're not ready to go back to back. You're not ready to be a dynasty. You're not ready to be an all-star. You're not ready to be a Hall of Famer. You're not ready to be a legend. Right? So focus on adding that value. So when the time does come for the team to be put together, you're not going to get the call. You want to get that call. Like I already know for a fact, because we was almost there literally before the pandemic. Like that last deal we was about to get with the wild school.
Kelly Miller.
Kelly Miller, when they wanted us to come like 20 times, it was like, yo, we don't got enough people. Right? We didn't tell them that, but we had to figure it out. But we also struggled, like, who can we call? Like, who can we call? It wasn't that many people we could call. Like we could have got some bodies in there, but there's a certain standard. There's a certain standard, right? And it can't be nothing that we're already good at. So the first person we called was Mace. Like boom, instant value added. And the hard part on me is like, we do it. We do everything. Like, are you good at something and you can talk about it and you can show up presentable? But it wasn't that many people that we could call, right? Or I keep sending this message to Pizzle. When Pizzle gets his own wedding, right? How many people can he call? He ain't gonna need us to do much. He's just gonna need reliable people. Are you going to be willing to take a 4-hour drive to do a 16-hour wedding and then drive back? And I probably can't pay you, bro. I'm gonna need this bread to reinvest in the van for our next trip so it's easier. It's not gonna be that many people we can call. I already know that, right? Just to hold some equipment or to do some running around, right? When Just has a big investment opportunity that comes, everybody, you only need 2 G's. You're not gonna be able to call that many people. Or KG gotta facilitate a group of 500. It might not be 7 dogs he can call, but they don't look the part, right? So add that value to yourself first, so that when it does come time to get to that team, you can play a role in it. And realize you don't have to touch the court. You don't have to touch the court. Juwan Howard was on the team for 15 years or something. He didn't play the last 6, but he added tremendous value from his experience and his ability to communicate that, right? Or what's my man that played with LeBron on every team? James Jones, right? James Jones added tremendous value in practice. He could come and he can knock out a 3. He could come and he can get them dirty fouls, right? So just be prepared to get the call. And then also, if you're the type, if you feel like there's a guy named Walter Bond, he's a motivational speaker and a performance coach, and he played on the Jazz with Udonis Haslem. I mean, CK. I just read KG message. He played on the Jazz with John Stockton and Karl Malone in that era, and he wasn't supposed to make it to the league. But every time he was told he wouldn't make it, he would go to people who knew what they were talking about. He said, "What do I have to do? I feel that I'm good enough, but everybody else isn't. What do I have to do?" And he would work on that. He would work on that. He would work on that to become a part of that team. And he stayed on that team for all those years. He was the first undrafted rookie to ever start opening day. But he was a role player. But he took everything that he learned, and now he travels the world coaching business. So my message for today is overemphasize getting better as a person, becoming coherent, so that you can add to your team or get drafted to that team, signed to that team. It don't matter what school you came from, what kind of history you had. It doesn't matter your age. It doesn't matter your youth. It doesn't matter your experience. It doesn't matter your knowledge. What value do you add to the team? So anything y'all like to say in closing? We got 2 more minutes.
I'll say this. Just remember, whenever before that level up moment, it's always going to be, you're always going to have that catastrophic moment in some form, right? It's always going to be extreme loss, right? Then you level up, extreme setback, level up, right? Because it's there to balance you out. It's there to give you perspective, right? And just understand, the road to success isn't linear, right? Understand and trust the process, and understand that with these moments of struggle, it's just making you the best version of yourself. And each time, right? Because each time you go through something, it's going to require a different part of who you are. So understand there's no linear way to success, and you might have to take 2 steps back before you can take 10 steps forward.
Yeah, I agree, KG. I often hear that the road to success is under construction, right? And I think, not only is the road to success not linear, but it's bumpy. You're gonna have to get off road sometimes. You're gonna have to readjust. You're gonna have to reassess yourself. You're gonna get flat tires, right? You're gonna get resistance. You're gonna get all of these things that really, really are put in the path, which we don't like as humans, like that, those discomforting factors, right? But the beautiful thing about it is that without those experiences or without those challenges, getting to success definitely, like Control just posted, it makes it much sweeter. It makes it easier, right? Because it helps to influence your future decisions, but it helps you to stay where you're headed, right? I don't think that there's anything worse than what we were listening to ET say another day when we were working out on goal line. He said that, don't take the opportunity for granted if you're a college athlete and you're coming from a bad neighborhood, right? Because, everybody praises you while you're there. But if you don't take full advantage of the opportunity, what hurts even more than not having that opportunity is having the opportunity and then you have to come back to the hood. You got to come back to an environment that you're not satisfied in because you didn't take advantage of the opportunity fully. And you now have to be in an environment that you no longer identify with. The conditions are worse than what your new normal was, all because you didn't see the full scope of the opportunity that you were presented with. And just know that the challenges that you experience are here to shape you. and they're there to help keep you at your destination once you actually reach it.
And the last thing I'll say is adversity creates the opportunity. So you're going through great adversity, just think about all the opportunities you have to succeed. Just make it happen.
100%. And in closing, I'll say, to echo off of last week, you must persist. Because I saw Kel's and Josh, your friend, put in the comments that not it's okay to lose, but when you do lose, it's cool because you know what you did wrong for the next time. But I would like to emphasize that that's where a lot of people quit. They don't persist, right? That's why I always highlight this data that 90% of people lose in the stock market, but the average return is still positive. That means most people quit, and those who didn't, they absolutely eaten. You got 100 people, 90 losers, 10 winners, but the average is still a win. That means those 10 people who did not quit are eating. And to further dive into the example, in 2021, well, we just started. In 2020, the far majority of millionaires and billionaires in America are self-made. The far minority are heirlooms, people who it was given to, right? So find a way to add value, persist. See you next week. Peace out.